Why do you travel? Is relaxation your strongest motivation, or is it a desire to fill your IG feed with enviable photos? Do you look for comfort when abroad, or do you hunger to taste the culture of others? Would you like to be treated like royalty, or do you humbly present yourself as a guest in the home of another? One woman shares with us her travel philosophy as she strives to become the first Black woman to visit every country in the world. The woman, Jessica Nabongo. The book, The Catch Me If You Can, One Woman's Journey to Every Country in the World. And you're listening to Lit Society.
Let's get lit!
Hey, y'all. Hey, this is Kari.
And this is Alexis.
And you're listening to Lit Society, a show about books and drama. Alexis, how you doing this week?
Whew, I'm doing good. Off to a good start. I'm accomplishing some things. I'm feeling good. How about you?
I'm doing good. I don't know if I'm accomplishing much, but I'm feeling great. And I'm ready to get into this week's book. But before we do, as you know, listeners, usually we start with a theme of the week. But this week, we're going to bypass the theme for Society Says.
Hey.
Society Says is the portion of the show where we share your comments with the rest of the Lit Society. Alexis, is there a comment you wanted to share this week that you thought particularly lit?
I did. I found a comment from Living for Music on Apple Podcasts, and they said, delightful. He said, I just finished reading Wuthering Heights, and I was searching for content discussing Emily Bronte's classic. I found them to be hilarious and delightful. Oftentimes, reading can be isolating and daunting, but listening to this podcast feels like I'm discussing the book with friends. This podcast is an excellent companion piece to my reading journey. Thank you, ladies, for a job well done, and keep up the great work. Thank you, Living for Music. We love that comment.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kari, did you have a comment that you wanted to share?
So I have a comment from Instagram, and this comes from cmg.peace. And they say, so listen, Dorothy West's book, Deadline, must have snuck up on her because the end felt like a 10-pound story in a 5-pound bag. She put the end of that story together in such a slapdash way. Woo! And Alexis Yackle, that's a yell plus a crackle, took me out. Like I too was like, that's it. And she spelled it DASSIT. Oh, we love AAVE.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I was entertained though. And the book she's talking about, literati, is The Wedding by Dorothy West. I really love that book. However, Alexis was like, where the rest of it when it was over? So yeah, CMG.Peace agrees with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And listeners, to have your comments shared on our show, please leave us a message on Spotify, Apple Podcast, on our website, Instagram, YouTube, which, we are a video podcast. So if you want to see our faces, go over there. And we may share your comment on the show. Alexis, why don't we take a quick break before we get into the context around this week's book and learn a little bit more about Jessica before we discover all the places she's been.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. We're back.
Hey!
Alexis, can you tell us, that's okay, can you tell us a little bit about Jessica Nabongo and perhaps her motivation for writing and living this week's book?
Okay, so, a lot of that is included in the book that we're covering in the book this week. So I am not going to go into that. However, I do want to talk about a bit of the controversy that came up as she announced that she was working to be the first Black woman to have visited every country in the world. In 2019, she gained public attention for claiming that that's her goal was to be the first Black woman to have visited every country in the world. And her claim was disputed by another Black woman named Wani Spotts. And her claim was that she had already done that in 2018. In September of 2018, Spotts reached her goal of visiting every country and continent in the world and received an official travel certificate from the Traveler's Century Club. And that's a club for people who've visited 100 or more of the world's countries. And she received that certificate in April of 2019. Scott's first IG post was August 7, 2019. And she has visited these countries over the course of 40 years. Most of her travels were done in the 70s and 80s. And I think it was by 1982, she had visited 100 and maybe 62 or 65 countries. Jessica did a press release. And she said, I have read some of her interviews and it has become clear that Ms. Spotts has not visited every country in the world. She has not visited the current list of UN member countries, recently noting on Twitter that she visited the USSR and Yugoslavia, but not the independent countries as they stand today. According to Nabongo, the dates and numbers simply don't add up. In 1982, she said, there were not 165 countries, and between 1983 and 2018, the UN gained 35 new member countries based on Spotts' press release. Written by her and released in April 2019, she only visited 4 of these new member countries as part of her last 30. Jessica is not recognizing her, and I don't know that anybody else is. It's not that they're not recognizing her, big names or other places, but Jessica's travel to all 195 countries, UN countries, is well documented. While the other woman, Wani Spotts, she doesn't have an IG. And when she was going in the 70s and 80s, there was no IG. So it wasn't as well documented as Jessica's is documented. So I don't think she's being given credit for going, even though she's got that travel certificate. She's not getting credit for it. And like I said, both women state on their IG page that they are the first to make it to all 195 UN countries.
I'm not sure it's just about Instagram either. I see the argument for both women. For Wani, it seems like a family friend was creating a documentary. So when she was still a teenager, they invited her to come along to be like the model or subject of this. It seemed like a documentary to me.
It was.
Okay. And they took their time with it. And I think her travels extended beyond just that documentary.
They did.
Because like you said, it lasted for decades, her traveling lifestyle, to the point where when Jessica became famous for reaching this goal and this title as the first Black woman to travel to all UN recognized countries, Wani's friends was like, you've done that already. You should really publicize it. So the world is different now. I don't feel like either women have to, and I don't think you feel this way either. Either women, no one here seems to be dishonest in representing their travels. They both traveled in very different ways too, whereas Wani had a team. Even if it was a small team, she had help. She began when she was a child. Jessica was a grown woman who traveled solo and really figured things out in a time where she could do that. There are some freedoms allowed Jessica with technology and also with the advancement of women's rights, where she is able to travel in a different way. So they both have their, I guess, privileges in the way that they traveled.
Sure.
But the world has changed since the 70s and 80s. And if you're saying you visited the USSR, yeah, I mean, the world's different now. So it's unfortunate almost that this has to be the title one for all time.
Yeah.
And someone has to claim it and no one else can claim it again because, You know what I mean? Like the world is different.
Sure.
If you visited every country or every recognized country in the time of Magellan, yeah, you achieved something. That is not to be discounted.
Right.
And if someone did it yesterday or finished their travels yesterday, it was just a different experience.
Yeah. And so really what I mean when I say Jessica gets all the attention. Wani is
from
not,
like mainstream media.
Yes. Wani is not getting the attention. While she's been interviewed by people, they're going to Jessica as the first one. And I think that's because she has more of a presence on social media, on all social platforms, and she's doing it loudly. And Wani's experience was back in the 70s and 80s. So it's just very different times, like you said.
And there's an age difference. Jessica has great media. She's very savvy when it comes to media and press and just public relations. So yeah, that's going to work into her advantage too. But I don't think either of us is discounting her experience either. She definitely achieved something here.
Nope. They both did.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting Wani too. Because it's not a competition. Yeah, both of these women, I know as travelers, we admire that feat of having achieved every country in the world and taking a little bit of those countries, not just traveling to say you stepped on the land, but taking a little bit of each country and putting it into your heart and lived experience.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So Alexis, why did you choose this week's book?
So I started following Jessica, and I believe in 2017. And I believe this was before she officially announced that she was going to get to all countries. So I followed her journey. I even voted on the book cover for the book. And so I've been wanting to read this book for a while. And while we were making our February-March schedule, I came across the book and I said, well, let's cover it. But I forgot that we were focusing on movie-related books. So
this might be a movie one day.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Our experiences are, I love them. Anyway, so that's why I chose the book. Who do you think would enjoy reading this book, Kari?
I've never read a book quite like this. So I can't say if you read such and such book that you'll love the Catch Me If You Can. But I will say that I bought this book in two formats. I bought the audio version from Audible, and I actually bought a hardcover version because I was hoping there were photos in it. And so I will say, listening to this book at work made me feel like I was on vacation. The way that she describes each country is not in a self-serving way. It's actually serving the cultures and the people that she experienced while in those places. And that's my favorite type of travel. She made herself, a guest in people's home, literally and figuratively. She went in with curiosity. She tried not to have biases, although she does admit when she recognizes her own bias. And I love that. I felt like it was just an honest detail of her experience across maps.
A little bit.
Probably. Sorry. So who would love this book? If you just need to get away, but you can't get away in the moment, this is the book for you. Because reading it, I was feeling like I was getting away.
Okay. Sorry, all right then. Thank you, Kari.
I'm not saying I liked it. Listen to the end of the show to see if we liked it. Anyway, Alexis, anything else before we deep dive into this work?
Absolutely not. But you know what? I am ready to dive in, but I'm only going to skim the surface of this book in real life.
No problem.
Skim it, really.
Okay, let's do it. Because it's kind of an experience. Like, how would you detail the story? I mean, you can't really, you got to read the book to read the book.
I struggle with that. So that's why
Without further ado, let's give you the floor. Alexis, please, let's take a deep dive into the Catch Me If You Can by Jessica Nabongo. The floor is yours.
Okay. So Jessica starts with an introduction. She said she got her first passport. And I think the introduction has a lot of her motivation and a lot of information about how she got to the journey in the first place. She got her first passport when she was about 4 or 5 years old. She grew up in a home with hundreds of books, 2 sets of encyclopedias, and an atlas and a globe. And she was a geography nerd. Her parents never put boundaries on her, and she had 2 sisters. She was raised to feel that anything was possible. So coming to the idea of visiting every country in the world was pretty easy to do. Jessica graduated from St. John's University in New York City, and while there, she helped establish the African Studies minor. She had internships at Time Inc. and Pfizer. She was also accepted to a competitive summer program at Harvard Business School. When she got her first full-time job, her pay and benefits were near 6 figures, and she had a company car, stock options, an expense account, disposable income to boot. She was living the life. Next on the list, married with and some kids, 2 kids, a big house, and 2 luxury cars. She was on her way to having it all. She relocated back to her hometown of Detroit and spent her weekends in Miami and New York. She was living the life. When she was 22, she bought a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo with views of the Detroit River and Canada. Then one day in 2018, she checked her email because it was bonus day and she wanted them figures there. And girl, they was not there. She was like, what? This is not the life. She was doing all she could to reach her sales goals. She was going above and beyond. She was the favorite sales rep in her territory. And so she went home. She was like, forget this. She went home and Googled teaching jobs in Japan. She had a friend living there, and she had been fascinated with the language because it reminded her of her parents' language.
This is a good reminder that whatever success we experience in our careers, whether it be the gig economy success or corporate America, is dependent on the economy.
Absolutely.
And that's volatile. So I admired that she was like quick to change direction and pursue a passion.
Right. Because she could have easily have just stuck around in that and got the same disappointment year after year until it picked up.
And honestly, that would have been reasonable because that's just life.
Yep.
You know,
That's
if
life.
she had a whole lot of debt, she might not have had a choice but to just stick with her sales job. But she left herself some freedom to pick up a career that paid way less.
Yeah. So like I said, she went home and she Googled teaching jobs in Japan. She got the job and she started prepping and moved to a new country, a new continent. One she had never even visited before. So at this point in her life, she had traveled to 9 countries and 1 territory across 3 continents. And she had never traveled solo. So she put her stuff in storage and had a wonderful going away party. She shaved her head because she knew she wouldn't be able to find anybody to do her black hair. And she went on about her business, hopped a flight, and went to Japan. The move changed her life. She was no longer willing to go back to the 9-to-5 lifestyle of the U.S. after that. And so she decided to continue living abroad. And when she left Japan, she started her blog, the Catch Me If You Can, and started focusing on her photography. And she traveled until she ran out of money. And then she called London home. And while she was in London, she was in London because she was going to do her master's degree at the London School of Economics. She then worked for a nonprofit in rural Benin. And she had a post at the United Nations in Rome. After quitting a lot of jobs and learning a lot of what she didn't want to do, in February of 2017, she figured out what she wanted to do.
Is this where she asked for a month off? And her boss said, you can have 2 weeks. So she took 2 weeks and then quit. Oh, no, she asked for 2 months off. Maybe that's later on.
Yeah, I think that's later on because this is still the introduction. So she figured out what she wanted to do. And something that would give her fulfillment in life, and that was travel to every country in the world. So mentally, she made a commitment that she wanted to do that in 2017. By October 6th of 2019, she actually accomplished that goal when she landed in Seychelles, surrounded by family and friends. She attributes entrepreneurship to helping her reach her goal and living her life of freedom. She left her last corporate job in 2015 and founded Jet Black, which is a boutique luxury travel agency.
What a great name, by the way. I was like, that is genius.
Yeah.
Jet Black. Oh, I love it.
And that company promotes tourism in Central and South America, the Caribbean, and Africa. The initial goal was to change the narrative about countries in those regions, and it evolved to also promote Black tourism. Jessica is a content creator and has partnered with brands on social media. And in November of 2019, after she reached visiting all 195 UN countries and 10 territories, she founded the e-commerce site, The Catch, which the aim was to give artisans from around the world access to a global marketplace. Mm-hmm. Key lessons she's learned from her travels. There are two. First, most people are good. She's had people open their homes to her, donate money to help her reach her goal. And then second, we're more similar than we are different. And I wholeheartedly believe that. Jessica tells us that
Wait 1 second. Can I just tell you, while I was reading this book, I was also watching a show a friend introduced me to called Text Me When You Get Home. Oh. And it's all about abducted women. Okay. And it was a wild ride to watch that show and while reading this book. Oh my People goodness. Can't go down the street to the bodega safely. Female people can't go down the street to the bodega safely. And I'm reading about this girl hopping in a car with a border control and two friends she just met yesterday. Yeah, I was starting to sweat. This was
people
a lot.
She met online.
Don't do nothing in this book. And now it's exciting to read that she did it. Y'all don't do nothing in this book.
Exactly.
All I can say is have a guide. One thing I'll say, she always had a local guide with her if the culture was very foreign to her. And I thought that was brilliant, very smart. Usually someone she could trust, sometimes people she just met on the internet.
On the internet.
Oh, she was making me. I almost called her mom, but then I was like, no, she done traveling, so.
She ain't out there fine. Right now.
Yeah, I don't think she probably in Detroit. All right. She better be.
Okay. So Jessica feels like she has a duty to tell stories of places. She has a duty to tell stories of the places that she visits with dignity and respect, to share our adventures without patronizing places or people. She says there is danger in a single story.
Yeah, because everybody and their mama done been to Paris. Paris is on so many top 10 lists.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You can love Paris. I love Paris. But come on. Yeah. It's a whole world out there.
She says she travels with a lens of curiosity and a desire to understand what everyday life is like. She seeks to learn rather than confirm biases. And if you're looking to confirm biases, she said, you're always going to find it. You want misery, you can find misery. It's out there.
Yeah.
She says, we have seen the world only through one lens, and she wants to offer an alternative. Most of the people who have visited every country in the world are white males. Her travels are shaped not only by her Blackness, but her Africanness. And she says she's had issues with immigration due to the negative perceptions of Africans globally. The top 10 lists that are made by people who, she says, barely scratch the surface of global destinations, and very few of them have even been to 50 countries. So if we rely on these lists alone, we're leaving out an entire world. Brilliant. So this book's intent is not to convince the readers to travel to every country in the world, but she says it's to let people see what's out there, know about the countries that are not on these top 10 lists. She says while she is proud of her journey, she will probably not do it again. She said it wasn't easy, and there were a lot of lonely nights, tears of frustration, and anger from being treated as less than equal.
And then imagine you do all that, get home, and somebody go, "I been did that." You know, that is a difficult situation. That's why we appreciate both women.
Absolutely. She says, this book that we're covering today is not going to include all 195 countries recognized by the UN. She chose 100 countries to share with us. And why these 100? Number one, because not all her experiences were impactful enough to share. And two, she wanted to experience more of the country before she actually talked about it. She said, Mexico, how can she talk about Mexico without having gone to Guadalajara or I never get this word right, Oaxaca? I think it's Oaxaca. Without going to those two places.
That was evidence of her humility to me. She isn't trying to say she's an expert in all these countries, but her experience is very honest and it's not very touristy. She spent time with the locals. And when she didn't feel like because some countries she was only in for 2 or 3 days, but with Mexico, for example, it's so vast and she really felt like she didn't get enough time to really absorb the culture. So she didn't include it.
Yeah.
I love that.
So the countries that made the book, here are 4 reasons why she included them. She fell in love with them. When she arrived, they found a special place in her heart immediately. And when she met people there, their stories she felt needed to be told, or strangers became immediate friends. And then 4th, because many of the destinations in the book don't immediately come to mind when people create a bucket list. And she wants us to consider them.
What country were you most looking forward to reading about in this book?
All of them. I just wanted to see what she saw. Do you have a bucket list, Kari?
No. I don't plan on kicking the bucket ever. So don't need a list for it.
Yeah, but I don't have one either. I know people say it.
I do have some countries on my list that I'm like, man, this is long overdue.
That you want to go to, but not like a bucket list.
Nah,
me neither.
Like now I'm ready to die. I've been to London. I don't know. Not for me.
I don't want to form that conversation. Not at all.
But I was really looking forward to North Korea. Girl, people, this is controversial because like she said, she didn't visit. I am going a little bit ahead.
That's okay. That's okay because I'm not talking about it.
Oh, great. So in North Korea, she didn't visit the correctional facilities or anything like that. So she's very honest that she went to the places that free so-called happy people go to and places that they would like tourists to go to. A lot of people go to North Korea as tourists and they just abide by the rules and they be coming home and stuff, just so y'all know. I mean, y'all already know. It's not funny. Don't laugh.
Follow the rules.
True. Yeah. So I've seen photos in North Korea. I don't even know if you're supposed to take pictures. And I've always been very interested in what people's experiences in that country. As an American, as a American national, I'll never be able to go there as it is now. So yeah, I am interested in those countries, even those that are considered very much enemies of the state. I just wonder what the people who live there outside of the political system, the people who live there, what their daily experience is like and what the streets feel like. And that was very interesting to me. There are no ads. Everything is very clean, almost robotic, skyscrapers, color. Yeah. It sounded like a Brave New World, but that could be just my Western education and biases.
So, so a lot of this book, I feel like I was on the journey with her because I was following her on social media. So it's just
you recall when she was there and you were like, oh, I remember that. I remember that post.
That was a lot of my experience looking at this book. Just like, oh, yeah, I remember when she said that. Oh, yeah, I remember when that happened. Oh, yeah. So that was, so I was just excited to go through the pages and see it in print, that she had accomplished her book. So let's get into
Are you going to cover Rome?
Sorry. No. So again, feel free to cover what you want because I'm only covering like 5 or 6.
Okay. I thought her experience in Rome was very telling of the Black experience in Italy, and how there is a large population of, I'm going to say, trafficked sex workers who are promised in their home country an education, protection, and their families agree to this. And then once they get into the country, and it's not just Italy, once they get to the country, they're forced into sex work. And so what this, a side effect of this can be that citizens in that country see anyone with brown skin as a potential sex worker. So she was accosted on the street. People said rude things to her. People looked at her in a certain way in Rome.
I wonder, is that what my experience was?
And we just didn't know it.
And
Let me tell you. And that's the greatest way to be, because you be so ignorant.
So ignorant. Is that what my problem was?
So Alexis and I went to Rome with a group, a whole bus. And we took like a bus tour with her sister of Italy a while ago. But we had a great time. I went back a couple times and stayed an extended period, not in Rome, but in a city about an hour east of Milan. And that's when I was like more educated. People was like, stop smiling. And I was like, why are they smiling at me?
We could have been trafficked.
Well, yeah, anybody can be, even in Chicago. People, especially female people, have to be cautious. But yeah, I thought her experience. Now, I still love Italy very much. It's one of my favorite places in the world, and especially in our case, since we have a way of connecting with real people there and having true friends there. There are a few countries in the world where I feel like I couldn't go to at all. But I felt her experience was probably very honest. There is also this trend online of people going to certain countries and being like, y'all, they racist here.
Yeah, and she doesn't like that. She doesn't like that at all.
If you don't want to go somewhere that's racist, please pack up all your stuff wherever you is right now and jump off the earth. Thank you. You're going to be so happy. Go to the edge, Florida, and jump off. That's the only way. So don't let ignorant people ruin your experience. Alexa, you should have seen Alexis just have it. This is me smiling if you ain't on YouTube. Going, hola, de nada. That's Spanish. She was saying that in Italy. Okay, go ahead.
I was having a great time. Sure did. Anyway.
I love it.
Listen. Jessica's first country, guess what it was? The United States. She was born here in 1984. The U.S. is the third largest country in the world by area and by population, and it has more than 50 million immigrants. Jessica Nabongo was born to Ugandan parents.
Wait a second. What does it mean to be an American immigrant? I never thought about this. What is that? That's a wild sentence. 50 million. So you mean aside from Native Americans, it's only 50 million people here? That ain't true.
No. I think she's
a political
specifically very possible.
I don't know what an immigrant is in America, but I'm not trying to be edgy either. If y'all know, here, don't tell me because I ain't interested.
Everybody here, right?
How you an American immigrant? Okay.
Anyway.
Does your immigrantocity fall off after a certain generation? Like if your family came here like ours hundreds of years ago, are we not immigrants anymore? I mean, I don't feel like we're immigrants, I guess, but I just think I look at Black Americans as different. This is a lot. I got a lot to think about.
She makes it in the book. She makes that statement in the book. So anyway,
she got it from somewhere.
She's from somewhere. Absolutely intelligent woman. So she's born to a father who's a chemist and a mother who's a nurse, and they migrated to the U.S., Detroit, Michigan, specifically in 1969. She said her parents laid the foundations of a beautiful life for her and her two older sisters. While many people view Detroit like the news articles, TV shows, and movies depicted, the biases, she said, are untrue, and that her hometown has so much more to offer. She says the best time to visit Detroit is in the summer when Hart Plaza and the entire riverfront is alive. She said, come in the winter at your own risk. But if you do come, go ice skating in Campus Mauritius.
Sure. When's the best time to visit Chicago?
Same. In the summer. Same. Yeah. Absolutely the same. Mm-hmm. I fully agree with that. Summertime. It's alive. It's alive. Mm-hmm. Not that it's not in the winter, but the summer. Popping.
That's true.
She said she has driven through 38 of the 50 states. Her longest road trip was in July of 2009 and was with an Australian friend that she'd met in Japan. It was a 16-day trip. They covered 5,615 miles through 10 states.
Pure torture.
And Vancouver, Canada. So you don't like road trips, I take it.
Planes exist. So no. I'd rather bike.
Not bike. From country to country?
Sure.
Okay.
From state to state.
All right. Yeah, state to state, I meant. Sorry. Mm-hmm. She said she didn't plan any of the trip, but as a seasoned traveler, she was prepared. So she had 3 different maps, a bunch
analog
of triple A tour books. And she also had the book 1,000 Places to See Before You Die. They left their first stop in Las Vegas, and they had 16 days before their flights home from Los Angeles. So she visited Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, Washington, Oregon, and Canada.
So this is a very Pacific, Northwest, and Western U.S. trip.
She went to national parks. Mm-hmm. She said she even drove along the Pacific Coast Highway to Napa Valley.
Highway 1. Mm-hmm.
You've been on it?
Nope.
Okay.
I would like to. I take back everything I said. This road trip sounds amazing.
Okay. She visited several national parks, so she has a little tip for you. She said if you're going to 3 national parks in a year, go ahead and buy that $80 annual pass in advance. The national park system has 63 national parks and more than 400 sites. Jessica recommends going to Acadia National Park in Maine, Zion and Bryce Canyon in Utah, and the Great Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. And she now has a goal of seeing all 63 parks.
Love it.
I don't think I've been to any national parks, although I may have.
Well, that's a problem. You could go hang out with my mama while you stateside and see the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, at the very least, right?
Yes.
At the very least. I think I've been to some.
That you've never done that.
I think I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that I have.
Girl, I don't know if I've ever been to Yosemite. So let's go.
Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah, I know I just talked about this last week, but Alexis took me camping on the side of a highway. It was so wild. We was watching Netflix. I said, I don't think we doing this right. So I would very much like to see some natural beauty in the Americas.
In the Americas.
That sounds great.
In the Americas. I remember that was one of the things she did during the pandemic, but she hit a lot of
everybody and their mama.
Yeah. Hit the Americas. Her next big road trip was in July 2013, and her sister, Joyce, took the 2 children, and they did a Southern U.S. civil rights road trip. And her 2 nieces and
her
family members and her sister. Yeah. I don't know how they relate. Okay. I can't think of it. Sorry. Anyway, they were celebrating the 50th anniversary of the beginning of the civil rights movement. And they traveled through 6 states: Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana. And I can say that I have been to all of those states.
Yeah, well, you are a descendant of migrators from those states, right? We talked about this.
Yeah, but not in that way.
Yeah, because you didn't go to the South to like visit family.
No, I didn't have family to South to visit.
So why are we so connected to the South? I have been to those states also, but I would like to see them as an adult with new appreciation.
Yeah, and that's how I saw those
South
states.
Is beautiful.
Never as a child, just as an adult. Jessica says, New Orleans is America's best food city, hands down. How do you feel about that?
Hold on, Jessica. It's on sight. That's Chicago all day. But then she started naming stuff, and I was like, yeah, that is good.
Because you've been there a bunch of times, right?
Yes, and don't act like you don't be down at the Essence Festival. Alexis be fronting for the podcast. Yes, we've both been to New Orleans, and we love it. We love the food. So we love walking down the street with hurricanes.
We love it. Absolutely. Okay. Jessica knows that while she loves the U.S., she tells us she can't talk about it without talking about race and her personal experience. She says some of her worst travel experiences have been in the U.S. She says, and I quote, "No country in the world is completely unsafe, and no country in the world is completely safe. For me, a Black woman living in America, the U.S. has proven to be the most dangerous." Let's talk about some of her experiences with the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. In 2019, for her first time, she was sent to secondary security screening when she exited her flight, and she was met with armed U.S. military personnel asking for her passport, assuming she was an American. On returning from a work trip to Ethiopia, from Ethiopia, she was stopped and asked for her passport. And after it had already been checked and put away, and after the office examined it, they asked for a second form of ID because they couldn't tell if it was her. So, and then in February of 2021, she returned from 5 days in Senegal when she told the immigration officer she had 3 checked bags because they asked. She was flagged, saying she had a lot of luggage for such a short trip. And she told them she had purchased 2 baskets for her house. That wasn't good enough. And these are just a few of her experiences with custom border agents. She talks about some experiences that she had while she was out of the country with immigration areas. And I think
including one where the customs agent assaulted her.
Yeah.
I know she doesn't call it that, but that is what happened. Mm-hmm. She was assaulted.
Yep. She says this type of discrimination comes under the guise of doing one's job, but it's rooted in racism. She says she admits to having a privileged lifestyle, but her privilege will always come head to head with her oppression. It doesn't matter that I came out of a first class seat before walking to immigration control. To those officers, I am just another African to be suspicious of. And she says she makes a distinction between African and Black American because her Black American friends who she will travel with have never experienced what she has as a with American immigration.
Yeah, you still have your Americanness to hide behind, and she looks like a Uganda, like a person from Uganda.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I could definitely understand that. Like we all experience, it's not, yeah, we all experience prejudice.
Yeah.
But I could see her experiencing a specific kind.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
The second country that she ever went to was guess where?
Yeah, let's get out of the States.
Yeah, let's get out.
I don't know anywhere else. Also, real quick, like we're saying this sounds so beautiful. I'd love to travel up the one highway to Napa Valley. But by the time I spend money doing that, I could have been in Portugal for 2 weeks. So it's hard. It's hard to decide. Yeah, let's stay here and spend more money. What? Why would you do that? Anyway, the second country
would be great, Kari.
It would, and we need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the second country, was it Africa?
No,
that's not a country. Sorry, don't Raven Simone me. It was just a slip of the tongue. Was the second country South Africa?
Canada.
Yeah, no, obviously. She asked me again.
Okay, so what was the second country, Kari?
Canada.
Yes. Canada.
She didn't even need a passport.
Mm-hmm. That was back in the day. She said Canada, that's like the backyard for Michigan folks. The border.
And you go south from Detroit to get to Canada. I forgot about
12 miles from her home. She first visited in June of 1988, and she's visited there more than 5 times. She celebrated her 19th birthday there. They have a lower drinking age than the U.S., and during her 20s and 30s, it became her chosen vacation spot. So she's got plenty of friends and connections there in Canada. She talks about her first time skiing after nearly a decade, and the first day she went out on the bunny slopes, but she felt like she was wasting her money. So she's like, I'm going to do it big tomorrow, and I'm going to go out on the real slopes. And she bust up. She bust up pretty good, lost control. Bounced off her head, used her body for brakes, and she was left crying in the snow till her friend pulled up to her and said, "Is you okay?" And she was like, "No. Yes." And, she really broke down. She thought she was going to die. But she hasn't put on a pair of skis since then. So.
Wait, she got back up because she had to get down the hill.
She had to get down the hill.
And she fell again.
Yeah, she had to.
And he pulled up beside her. He said, I'm not trying to blame the victim, but why are you going so fast? She was like, oh. And she slowed down and made it to the bottom.
Mm-hmm. And then she realized she could have took a left down. So she was like,
This is such a common experience, though. It's like, skiing is hard.
I've never been. I've always had a fear because I think of all the people that run into trees, and mostly Cher's ex-husband. So,
Bono. But it don't matter. That's okay because our household has decided to double down on our snowboarding next year. So we will be doing that with you.
Oh.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay. Moving on to her fourth country. And Kari, you can get this. What is the fourth country she went to?
South Africa.
Uganda. One more time?
Yeah, no, Uganda. Ask me again.
Okay, Kari, you got this one. What is the fourth country?
Uganda.
Oh, you're very good at this game.
Thank you.
Uganda is the country of her parents' birth. She visited for the first time in 1991, and she has visited more than 5 times. Jessica, as we said, is American and a Ugandan citizen. She says the world sees her as African. We talked about that. Before she speaks, her American identity is often erased by her haircut, her dark skin, her high cheekbones, her wide nose, and her big lips. She has only lived briefly on the continent, and her mother is from the Mamba clan in the southern hemisphere, and her father is from the Matima clan, and that's in the northern hemisphere. So when she has to visit from her mom's side, she has to cross the equator to go. Her first visit to Uganda was in 1991. She was 7 years old. Her second trip was in December of 94 for her uncle's wedding. And she was like, that was like the best time. And then her third trip was an unexpected visit in 2003 to bury her father in Uganda after his death on May 17th. And this was her first time visiting as an adult. And she's been back 5 times since 2003. And she visited in 2013 while building her skills as a photographer. And at this time, she created a photo series called I Am. And she wanted to use the images to change the perception of Africans. In 2017, she traveled with her friends and she served as a tourist. She was there as a tourist now for the first time and a host to her friends. This time, she had her experience whitewater rafting. Do you remember that, Kari?
Oh, I remember her family was like, that's not something we do. Right?
I don't remember
Somebody
that.
was like, I don't think we do that.
Her friends wanted to go. And so she did this whitewater rafting. But Jessica is not an adventure traveler. I was really relating to Jessica in a lot of things because I'm not an adventure traveler either. I'm always
not
hesitant.
That you avoid. So the type of adventure we're talking about is where you're risking life and limb.
Yes.
That ain't necessary.
Yeah.
That is not necessary.
Yeah. She felt like this trip was exhilarating, yet frightening. She saw baby crocodiles perched on rocks, and then they hit the rapid, and her boat flipped. And she felt like she was being tossed and turned in a washing machine. And when she surfaced, her friend came eye to eye with an otter. And then after another huge rapid hit, everyone was expected to swim to the designated location. So she, instead of swimming to the designated location, decided she was just going to hang on to one of the rescue kayaks, clinging to it like a panda on a tree. She's like, this is not for me. Not for me. That's a little more adventure than Jessica cares for. So, things to do in Uganda. She says, ride the boda boda, which is a motorcycle taxi and the most efficient way of navigating the streets of Kampala. She said, eat freshly roasted pork, visit the National Theater Market, and make sure you say hi to her aunt in stall number 14. So that's Uganda. I'm going to talk about a couple places I want to go, and it's actually a place that she's gone. That's Japan. We know she went there for to teach English. It's the 10th country she'd been to, and she lived there from 2008 to 2009. When she was disheartened by her corporate job, she took off to Japan. She had a year-long contract, and on the way there, she had overpacked, and she wasn't allowed to pay the overage fee. So instead, she had to purchase a $10 cardboard box and kind of make the move. I've been in that situation before.
Okay.
Moving stuff and like, oh, take this back home and take the.
You have.
I have. I understood. She talked about how overwhelming it was to go to the grocery store. Because of the language. She said she had familiarized herself with the language using Rosetta Stone, but it was still very overwhelming. She said she spent her weekends in Kyoto and Osaka. The language barrier, she said, made her feel like she was living in a void. She said she remembered sitting on a train, wondering what passengers were talking about. She had forgotten what people say to each other in public. It was only when she learned the Japanese language and could talk to taxi drivers and other people she met more easily that the world opened up to her. She started her first blog just so people at home could see and read about what she was doing. She had an opportunity. She wasn't home during the presidential election of Obama. And so she tried to celebrate that in her own way. But she said that wasn't as much of a celebration as she thought it would be. But she ended up going to a city called Obama and hoping to go to the souvenir shop that had Obama-related souvenirs.
Yeah, the city was taking advantage of their namesake.
Yeah. And so when
T-shirts and...
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say they were selling a lot of unauthorized material, which get it how you get it.
Get your stuff, y'all. And so she said she spotted a man because when she went there, she tried to go to the souvenir store and the store was closed, but she saw a man in an Obama shirt.
I did not get this story. Go ahead.
She saw a man in an Obama shirt and she was like, I cheekily said, let's trade shirts. She could take her
He was like, sure.
And she could take her white tank top and he agreed to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's the story.
Jessica, another reason to call your mama. I had your mama on speed dial, Jessica.
Japan is where I first learned to explore a country fully and deeply, where I purposefully sought authentic experiences rather than tourist hotspots. Japan helped her realize there was nothing to fear in being away from home for a long time. After Japan, she decided she wanted to continue living outside of the U.S. for at least 3 years. So she entered a master's program for international development at the London School of Economics. I mentioned that already. So between starting school in London and finishing off in Japan, she had like 7 months of time. So she started traveling to a number of countries. She went to Australia, she went to Fiji, she went to Costa Rica and some other places. And so her friends would be like, where are you now? And they would compare her to Carmen Sandiego. And that inspired her to launch the blog, The Catch Me If You Can. And she began writing about her adventures around the world. She said things that you should taste while you're there, and that is Japanese street food. She said it's a thing to do. She also has a few other things that you should do, but this is a place I want to go for sure because it's so very different from what I'm used to. And I need to have that. I feel like I want to experience something that different.
And you really love anonymity too.
I do.
I'm sure that'll really wash over you. No, really. I do too. I enjoy that. So
yeah. So
you just got to learn Japanese.
Just a little bit at least, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit. Another country she visited was the Solomon Islands, and that was country 131. And she visited in August of 2018. And that's an island of Australia and Oceania. She said as she was getting closer to her goal, some of the countries she needed to go to were further away and really harder to enter. And Solomon Islands was one of them. In the Solomon Islands, you can find Black people with blonde hair. And I think they're called the Melanesia people. I can't remember. Okay. She had a public profile. It was really growing. And at some point, she received a DM from a person named Ryan who saw her on CNN. And he wanted to know if she would travel with him to the South Pacific.
Yeah, she said yes.
He slid in her DM and she said, yes, I will go.
We already know what Ryan was looking like. But Jessica, we want you to know you can find Black people with blonde hair in Chicago. They call baddies. Okay.
Jessica said she typically would never travel with a stranger from the internet, but Ryan had already done the legwork, so
okay,
get on board.
Stop, girl, if you don't stop lying to us.
She traveled with this perfect stranger to 6 countries.
They was having a good old time.
And she got to fly her drone for the first time in the Solomon Islands. Now, she uses her drone and she takes excellent pictures with her drone. I just love the shots.
So beautiful.
That she gets. They're just, I think they're creative too.
Yeah, not just the regular drone shot you see. It's like you sitting on the beach.
No, it's more than that.
Yeah, she's more artistic.
Yeah. So there was a place in here, and maybe more than one, but this one specifically was called, no, I can't even think of it. Nauru. Nara?
Oh, Nauru. I think so.
Nauru.
Okay.
It's a place I've never heard of. It's country 132. and she visited in August of 2018. It's an island off Australia and Oceania. Nauru is the world's smallest island nation, and it has a land area of only 8.1 miles. The island receives less than 1,000 visitors a year. This tiny
Is their
nation,
airport code fun?
is that? I don't think that's theirs, is it?
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Tell me if it is. Okay, so this tiny nation had a large natural phosphate reserves that were exploited by Australia and the United Kingdom until its independence in 1968. They were able to buy that back, but then, when they bought it back, they had at one point become like some of the richest people because of that buyback. Okay. But then they lost. Then they went through economic downturn, and so they're now a very poor country. And I think at one point they had detention centers that they were being paid for, but that closed down in 2019. She talks about her immigration encounter there, and she said, if you remember, she's traveling with Brian. Brian is a white male that slid into her DMs. Remember that. And when they get to the immigration window at Nauru, I'm going to say Nauru, he goes first, and then she comes behind him. She was immediately and aggressively blocked by a large Nauruan man. And when she told him that she was with Ryan, they were together, the officer wanted to know if she was sure that they were together. Are you sure?
I feel like he asked Ryan also.
Yeah, he then asked Ryan. And Ryan said, yeah, we're traveling. I mean, we're not married, but we are traveling together and our names don't match. And so he's examining the passports.
Yeah, the passport side by side. And that's when Ryan was like, well, we won't have the same last name. And Jessica's like, they're trying to see if my passport is real. Yeah. And Ryan just looking at her in confusion.
Yeah, confusion. It was confusion. Mm-hmm. So,
and that is not the FUN airport. I'm sorry, wrong country.
Which one is the FUN?
Funafuti.
Oh, Funafuti. Okay. So, again, still in Nauru, they explore Nauru by scooter. And while they're there, they're heading back, one adventure they're having, and they're heading back to their Airbnb. But Ryan is like, hey, let's go to this refugee detention center. Remember the place I said they closed off? Okay, so they're going to there. He's going to go sightsee it. So they had to go off the main road and drive through some loose gravel. And the tire of Jessica's scooter kind of slips, and the scooter falls to the side, and Jessica is like dragged 2 feet. Mm-hmm. And while nothing is broken, she's got blood. Her arm is on fire. I mean, you done hit the ground. Some pain, okay? That's happening. So they tried to flag a pickup truck to help, but they couldn't get both of the scooters on there to go back. So she ended up having to get back on the scooter and drive it. But once you done fell off something, you might
traumatized.
Yes, traumatized.
This reminded me of Jada Pinkett on motorcycles with Tom Cruise. Wild story. And she fell, and Tom was like, Jada, don't you want to get back on it? Oh, no. He was like, let's quit for today. And she was like, if I don't get back on now, I'll never ride a bike again. And he turns. This is when he had long hair. It was blowing in the wind.
That blowing.
And he was like, you're right. Okay. Anyway, it reminded me of that.
Yeah, because essentially he was like, you got to get back on. We got to get back down there. So
revisit your trauma.
She
did it.
She gets back on, and then she fall off again.
Yep.
She is messed up. So she at that point was like, you know what? You can get that yourself. I'm going to walk. And she walks down the hill herself. But this is the only time during her travels that she physically injured herself. But the people there that were her guides, they kind of made a concoction and healed her. And she has a minimal scar, and it healed within 10 days. So she was very appreciative of that.
She also has that beautiful deep skin.
Yeah.
So
that's also true.
Don't try this at home, everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
And I felt her too. She was like, I ain't never got to get back on a bike while traveling ever again. Not that type of bike.
Not that type
and I
of
was
bike.
like, yeah, girl.
Kari, why don't you share one of the places that you've been that's covered in the book?
Yeah. America. No, you did ask me to do that. Oh, well, I really was interested in her experience of Rome because the friends I have there are, the friends that I spent time with for a couple months were African, and they really opened my eyes to the difference in treatment between people. When people think you're American, they might think you're, not so intelligent. But if they think you're African, it's more like a nefarious presumption, like what illegal business are you here on and things like that. So
like you're a scammer.
I was very interested in that. Yeah, or again in some type of sex work. And men will say things to you and it can really shake you up. But that didn't deter her from loving the country and the culture. And this is also not in something that she experienced with every individual. And I love that she was able to differentiate that. The ignorance and hate of some did not paint the entire country for her. So I love that. Now, she did mention other countries, but a lot of the countries I've been to, she did talk about Denmark, and her experience there made me think I probably should have experimented more with food because she didn't hate it. I was like, you over there eating Scandinavian food, girl? So yeah, she made me think out, and I think I travel in a wonderful way, but maybe not in the best way for me at all times. So she made me really, really rethink the way I travel and just being open-minded. And just because you have 5 dishes that are disgusting, don't mean the 6th one won't be swallowable. So maybe we gotta go to Denmark. Maybe we gotta go back and have some pickled herring and enjoy it. So, yeah, I can't think of anywhere else she went in this book that I've been to. Like she doesn't describe Sweden, I don't think.
No.
Portugal.
She doesn't.
Italy,
she doesn't do
France.
Portugal.
Nope. Mexico. She went to a lot of places that are just places I long to go to.
You've been to Turkey?
Stateside. Oh, yeah. I did feel like I was walking. I felt like I was walking the streets with her when she was describing these churches turned into mosques and how she was shocked that she had to cover herself while visiting certain landmarks. That was really interesting. And it took me back there. I really felt like I was visiting every country she described.
Yeah.
But if I had been there before, it was
even more so,
sweet.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. What about you? What countries did she visit that you also have been to and really love?
Cuba was one of them.
Oh, we were there together.
Yes, we were there together.
She said the things that you have to do there. And what was the number one thing?
Vinales.
And who dragged you there against your will?
Kari.
You're welcome. You are welcome.
Yeah, so thanks.
Y'all should have seen the look Alexis was giving me. She was like, that's my sleep day.
I just wanted to know.
She was like, why do we have to go there? And I said, because it's beautiful.
Because we want to.
And I said, well, maybe that's the day we'll split up. And you said, well, maybe. And then you changed your mind.
It was wild. We went horseback riding that day, right?
Listen, there were some pros and cons. Yeah, I think we did. The scenery, gorgeous. I'll never forget it. Just beautiful. But we were exhausted that whole ride there, that whole car ride. And those animals were not treated in the best way. Mm-hmm. I still have thoughts about that. Yeah. So anyway. Yeah, Cuba. Where else?
South Africa. Boy. I like that. Yes. Mm-hmm. That was her 91st country. Cuba was her 56th. And she's gone back to South Africa 3 times. She's gone to Cuba 4 times. I've been to Cuba twice. I'm so pleased to say.
Come get her, feds. No, she went legally. She didn't go through the back door like some of y'all.
I know, right? So, yeah. What I love about South Africa is exactly what she says. It's the city meets the ocean with the mountains serving as a backdrop. And that is absolutely beautiful. And then Stellenbosch, wine country. That's absolutely beautiful. I love that. And then I think it's called Beaucamp. It's in the book. She referenced it. It was with the bright color. She has a picture of it.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so that's a really pretty place. My friend and I actually took pictures there, just her and I. And so that was really nice. That was really cool. So are there places in the book that you would like to, like 2 places that you could name that you say, oh, I want to go there? Because the way she describes
South Africa. Yeah, which you never took me to.
Ooh.
And then also I think that going forward in the next 5 years, I am going to pay a closer attention to Spanish-speaking countries, including those in South America and also across the sea throughout the diaspora. Because it is easier. I feel safer when I can get at least a minimal hold on a language. And when I think of places like Turkey, which I really love and can't wait to go back to, I do feel a little ignorant when I don't at least try to prepare by learning some of the language. So why not take advantage of the little I do know and visit, some Spanish speaking countries. So I want to give more attention to South America. I've been to Europe enough, I think, for a second, unless it's to visit a friend.
You do a pretty good job, though, of practicing your language before you go to a country. You did that with
I tried,
Italy and Portugal, right?
Yeah, but that ain't. Those aren't hard languages. But when you think of like Japan, which we want to go to, how humbling is that going to be?
Humbling.
I need to prepare it yesterday.
I think Portuguese is hard. Insert eye roll here.
And it ain't like I'm there like, indubitably. I'll be there like, gaga, goo goo, where is the bathroom, toilet? So it's the kindness of strangers.
The kindness of strangers.
That gets me through. Yeah, which she talks about.
So South Africa and where else?
I probably want to go to South Africa next, actually. I'm sick of y'all. Ooh. Everybody go but me. I'm tired of it. And you know what? While I'm on the continent, let's go to Kenya, please.
Kenya.
Have you been to Kenya?
Nope. Zimbabwe.
Let's go to Zimbabwe, please.
Go to Victoria
Can we
Falls.
go to Nigeria? Duh.
Yep, Nigeria.
Oh my goodness.
Ghana.
Oh, that's a lot.
Another place that I'd like to go is Cabo Verde.
Oh, sure.
And that's a chain of islands. It's just the westernmost point of Africa, and it comprises like 10 volcanic islands just west of Senegal. It's a Portuguese colony. She said when she went in May of 2019, there weren't a lot of tourists there, and she was happy to see that locals were enjoying their own beaches and their own spaces and caring for their own property. When I was in Portugal, I met quite a few Cabo Verdean people. And I don't feel like she took a lot of pictures in the book. So now I have to go see it with my own eyes.
Oh, I love it.
My own eyes. So those are places.
Madagascar, she describes beautifully too. And I'm ready to go. So much of Africa. The only thing stopping us is cash and time.
You go say that again. So y'all can donate to our mission to get there, okay?
Go fund
us. Yes.
We just trying to be the first Black literary podcast to travel to every country in the world.
That's right. Sign up.
That's all.
So ultimately,
let's do this right now. We gonna say we are encouraging literacy. Ooh, maybe I should learn how to speak. We are encouraging literacy throughout the globe by traveling while reading.
Traveling while
We'll
reading.
work on it. We'll iron it out, but we'll get something together that CNN will like.
Yeah. Obviously.
iOS iOS press release soon come.
Okay, so is there any other country in the book that she talked about that you want to go into depth with? Because I've shared all that I'm going to share. There are so many, like I said, I skimmed it because there are so many countries in this book. It's 100.
I think a better question is, what country would you not want to visit out of the ones she described?
Not visit, share with us. Share with us.
Oh, describing her journey there. Oh, you know, I thought that the way she described Russia really made it sound captivating. I will not be going there, of course, at the moment for a few reasons, but just the antiquity of the country.
Sure.
She describes very beautifully. She also had a sponsorship with the Four Seasons, which sounded just wonderful.
Right. How could we get in?
Okay, so airplane people, what they call an airline, might lose her luggage. The Four Seasons would have a wardrobe waiting for her.
Sure.
Okay. And she was very forthcoming. She like, I ain't trying to be out here roughing it. Listen, Jessica, you are so relatable. This is not about a book about being stinky and backpacking all over the world. We don't need it. We don't do that. We brush our teeth twice a day. You hear me?
Exactly.
So I love that when she got to experience a perk, she shared it with us. And I kind of felt like I was experiencing it too.
For sure.
And it wasn't in a braggy way. It's not a very braggadocious book or self-serving. Every country she visits, she gives a little tip for people who may want to follow in her footsteps or, visit in their own way. Another country though, I mean, North Korea, I was very interested in. Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Iran too. I like her story with Iran.
Yeah, Iran too. Oh, the Jordan. That's another country.
Yes.
Actually, so this is my list. South Africa and then the Jordan. And then I'll do the Spanish speaking countries.
Okay.
All of them. All of them.
Yes.
But the Jordan is so beautiful. And I love that people all over the world are traveling to Saudi Arabia now, or maybe not right now, but there was a time when that was free to do, to experience their culture. And the Jordan, Egypt, of course, I would like to visit. I know you asked me if I can describe the way she describes them, but
no, you don't have to do
I guess
that.
I can't.
No, that's unnecessary.
I love how when she was in a Middle East country, for example, and she looked around and there were only men, she admits her guard was up, okay? But it wasn't here that she experienced a lot of discrimination. She was definitely ignored a lot as a woman.
Yeah.
And then some people assumed she was a man because her head was shaved and then she was wearing lipstick. And so that brought a different kind of hate, but she handled it well in every situation. She didn't take things too personally. And she was very solution oriented instead of hurt feelings and, petulant when things happen.
Yeah.
So I love that. But her descriptions of North Korea, Pakistan, and a few other countries really intrigued me. What about you, Alexis? Did you have any final countries you want to describe for us in the words of Jessica?
I think Gabon. I think that's what it's called, Gabon. That's where she had that experience where a dish was put in front of her. She didn't know
penguin?
what it was. What'd you say?
Yeah,
she didn't know
what penguin.
Yeah, she didn't know what it was, and she like, I'm not gonna try that. But her friend tried it, but she took video of it and then she posted it, and then she got a lot of backlash because it was an endangered species or something. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I thought it was penguin. It must be. But yes, it was an endangered species, and people right away was like, we should cook and eat you.
Yeah.
And her DMs were just full of violence.
I hear you saying penguin. Are you saying penguin? Or are you saying pangolin?
Not if you don't.
Pangolin,
Yeah,
something like that.
I'm saying whatever you think is right.
Anyway.
This is the portion I was listening to on audio.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's all I want to share about this.
They were like, cancel her. And she was like, this could have been a learning opportunity. And indeed, it was a learning opportunity. Sure. I'll never post us eating anything. I'll never eat anything. I'm not sure what it is. And I definitely won't post it.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So that's
it. You live and you learn.
So let's take a quick break.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
We're back. Woo! So, Kari, let's wrap it up. Let's get a verdict out there. What is your final thoughts, and would you recommend this book?
I'd wholeheartedly recommend it. I was not interested in reading this book when it came up on our schedule. I just wasn't in the mindset space. But as soon as I started reading it, I could not put it down. I can't even speak. I love this book. I love it. I love it. Jessica is my favorite type of traveler where, yes, she did post on social media, but this is obviously not something she was doing just for clout. She makes very clear she was trying to find purpose in her travels. And so a way for her to find purpose was tying this to being the first woman to travel to all of these countries and to show the world that, yes, Black women can travel, can do so safely, can do so smartly. And all over the world, there is someone there to accept you. So never feel like you should avoid a part of the world because of discrimination. You can be smart about how you move, but you should do that at home. Because that type of hatred can follow you anywhere. So just know that as a brown person, you belong wherever you are. And I thought that was a pretty beautiful message. I love the way when she did travel, it wasn't just photos of her. She was trying to respectfully, as she asked, take photos of locals. And in that I Am series, she asked them to describe themselves because especially in the Western hemisphere, someone might see the photo and assume they know who you are. So why don't you tell them who you actually are? And people were like, I'm a friend, I'm a daughter, I'm a nurse, I am, and they described their passions. And I thought that was a beautiful series. Yeah. I have to find that actually. Yeah. So this book made me feel like I was traveling with a great companion who travels in the way that I appreciate. She didn't get to a new country and look around and say, okay, what can y'all do for me? How can y'all make me feel the most comfortable? Yeah. Show me that you're racist so I can say I'll never come back.
Yeah.
And there is this trend of people being on social media like, why y'all go to Paris? Paris is dirty.
I saw
Why y'all
that.
going to Spain? It's gross. It stink. Like, yeah, you can find the butt end of any country and point it out if you want.
Absolutely.
But why are you using your time in this way?
You spend all that money just to do that? That's weird. That don't even make sense.
And for real, you can always point out an American when you're traveling. I remember I was on the train and it was so quiet and civilized. And then I heard, girl, shut up. And I looked, I was on the train with me. It was me and my husband. And we looked around, not because we were disapproving. We were just startled because it was so civilized and quiet. And it was Alexis. This is a true story. It was Alexis getting on the train with her little friends. And we didn't even walk over and say hello. We just waited till our stop came. And we was like, girl, we saw you on the train.
Now we're her little friends.
So, my point is, that's how some people are when they travel. They stand out. I am a firm believer in not sticking out when you travel just because of safety and etiquette. But, forget that. So anyway, the point is I definitely recommend it. I love this book. And I would also say that this is a good coffee table book because You don't have to read it from cover to cover. You can just take a section and experience that country. And it's like you visited that country just for 10 minutes. It's beautiful. Really well done, Jessica. I love it. Alexis, what did you think of the Catch Me If You Can? Would you recommend this book? How did you enjoy it?
Well, I got to say, you've taken a lot of my words and my thoughts and feelings about the book. I absolutely loved the book. I loved reading about her adventures, and I'm excited to visit some of her recommended locations. It is indeed a great coffee table book with beautiful pictures and brief stories. You can sit there and read while you're maybe waiting for the dinner to be finished in someone's living room.
Yes.
Some of the countries she has a favorite place list, a must go, a to-do list, and I really like that. I think that's special. And the way she writes about her experiences, I like that she travels in a way to get to know the community, the people there, because I like to travel that way. I love to take an opportunity that not just shows me the tourist locations, but who the people are and getting to know the people. So I just really resonated with a lot of things she said here, and I loved it. Definitely recommend this book.
Okay. Now, this is the part where I actually ask you, what are we reading next week? But next week we're off, so it'll be a relit episode. And I think it's apropos that we throw up the Persepolis series.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah, let's travel to Iran. And so we'll get into that next week. If you haven't heard that episode, this is a perfect opportunity to experience life as a woman living in Iran during a very specific time. And that is, again, Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. It is a graphic novel, a comic book, if you will. So it's also a very fun read, even though the subject matter is very heavy at times. So we encourage you to read it with us. Literati, thank you for listening to another episode of Lit Society. If you've enjoyed what you've just heard, tell a friend about Lit Society. Leave a 5-star review for our show along with a comment about why you absolutely love us. We love you too. On Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and everywhere you can find Lit Society podcast. Sign up for our amazing email newsletter by visiting litsocietypod.com. And until next time, Literati, we love you guys. Stay safe. And what else, Alexis?
Read something.
Read something.